Hey everyone, I hope you've had a good couple of weeks. I took last week off because I was out of town for the weekend, so I didn't get a chance to record the video. But nonetheless, I hope everyone's had a good 2 weeks. And yeah, so my name is Jake. My channel is Jake Trades and Invests, where I do a weekly recap of where the markets have moved, as well as where I think prices may be headed in the near term. So with all of that said, let's take a look at our first chart, which will start here with the dollar index. So over the last couple of weeks, we've still trended down and kind of consolidated sideways into the end of this week, where we're kind of holding around $99, just above that, and it looks like it's ready to give a little bit of a bounce back up towards, I'd say maybe $100, back up towards this 50 moving average here, as well as retesting this resistance zone that's overhead, and uh, this other resistance zone in the orange trend lines here. So a lot of resistance overhead in this area. A good place for the price to come back up, test, and then I think to continue down further to the downside. But with that, we'll just have to wait and see how things play out over the next couple of weeks. But I would say in the next week or two, it looks like price at least wants to bounce and head a little bit higher. And with that said, we'll move to gold. In the price action in the dollar index makes sense. If the dollar is strengthening, that's typically a little bit of a headwind and weakness for gold. And we can see that gold on Friday was pulling back towards the moving averages. I don't think this is going to be a large pullback for gold, considering the momentum we've had over the last at least year and a half, 2 years. But I do think with hitting all-time highs at 3,500, just above that, back in April, I think a little more consolidation is needed. It looks like we're forming kind of a flag pattern here. So if the dollar does what I think it's going to do and bounce in the next week or two, it's a good chance gold is going to continue to pull back here. But I wouldn't look for it to go below 3,200. Seems to be a good support area. Um, it, it's possible that it could come down to 3,100 around that area if it really sells off. But for right now, I think gold's just looking for a short pullback in the short term. So let's move over to silver. Silver, we had some strong push up this week. We started the week with a really large candle, and then Tuesday, Wednesday had some small consolidation, and then Thursday pushed higher, and Friday pushed higher as well, and hit some selling in the $36 area, which is to be expected. It's an all-time high. Well, not an all-time high, but an all-time high in the last couple of years. I'll zoom out here. We'll look at 5 years. So in the last 5 years, this is an all-time high. If we zoom out even further, up here around $50 is about the all-time high that silver has hit back in 2012, 2011. But I think we're heading back up to those prices in the next couple of years. But for now, this is good momentum in silver. We're on the weekly chart bouncing off of the 50 moving average, and people are stepping in and buying those pullbacks, so that's a good sign for silver, and I think that's going to continue to head higher. We'll head back down to a daily. We are extended above these 50 and 100 moving averages, so if gold pulls back, I think silver is likely to consolidate, possibly here around $35, and let these moving averages catch up. Now that we've broken above 35, it seems like a good place for the price to come back and retest and see if it will hold at that price. So let's wait and see over the next couple of weeks if silver is gonna pause here and consolidate and pull back. For platinum, platinum has had a very strong move. I was talking about it a few weeks ago that we were retesting this resistance area overhead, and it looked like we were ready to move higher. We had the moving averages turning higher, and over the last couple of weeks, we have really broken out of that resistance zone finally. I think I talked about it 2 weeks ago when I did my video, how it was likely we were going to come back down and test this resistance zone overhead to see. It's typical when we break out of these downward trend lines that we pull back and retest them before heading higher. That's exactly what happened. So platinum is looking great on the medium to long term to continue higher. I do think, given how overextended we are past the moving averages, that a pause is likely, and some consolidation maybe for a month or two to let all of this momentum kind of die out a little bit. It's likely we'll consolidate here, let these moving averages catch up and before heading higher. But over the long term, let's zoom out to a weekly chart. This is very strong price action to the upside. We were consolidating in this triangle pattern here over the last 4 or 5 years. We finally got that breakout that we were looking for and have been talking about for a couple of weeks, really a couple of months. But so platinum's looking strong here, but likely will consolidate and pull back for the next couple of weeks, I would think, to let some of this momentum die out. But I could be completely wrong, and the momentum could continue and we continue to rocket higher. Completely possible. So we'll just have to wait and see. But either way, platinum looks good to continue to the upside. We'll switch over to copper here. I'll go back to a daily. Copper got back above 490 this week. We retested up in the $5 area before selling off Thursday and selling off Friday. But I think with the other metals heading higher in the short to medium term, I think copper is going to follow. We're still above the moving averages. I think this is just some selling off here, probably going to come back down towards 475 or so. Let me extend this resistance zone, hopefully now support. Back over. So if it came back down around 475, that would be a logical area for the price to kind of hold, stabilize, and continue the uptrend. But nothing's ever guaranteed, so we'll have to wait and see on copper. But I think it looks good to continue to the upside. All right, for crude oil, I know 2 weeks ago I talked about crude oil heading back up to $66, and that looks like that's where we're headed. We had a pretty strong week this week with a push higher on Monday, a little bit of consolidation, and then Friday ended the day with a strong bullish candle around 64.80. So I think this week is likely we'll see the price get back up to at least 66. And like I said 2 weeks ago, I'll be interested in seeing what price does in this zone overhead. Is it going to bust through the zone, or is it going to hit its head and reverse down? We're below the 200 moving average, so I think it's likely price could come up here, touch the 200, and pull back again. But if the momentum continues and this double bottom from a couple of weeks ago holds, and then we continue to the upside, if the momentum can get behind the price, it's likely we could break above it back up towards maybe $70 or so before seeing a little bit of a pullback and retest of that zone. So for now, we'll have to wait and see. But I do still hold that I think oil's going to at least get to $66 to retest that area. Now for natural gas, it's kind of mimicking crude oil a little bit. We've had the kind of the double bounce here, just over $3, and then we're pushing higher this week. So natural gas is looking good to continue to the upside, and natural gas can move quickly as we've seen in the past. So I do think it's very likely that price is going to get back up to $4, if not this week, by next week. And I think it looks good to continue to the upside over the next couple of months. There's really not much more to say on natural gas. I think it looks good, looks strong. So now we're going to move over to the indices. We'll start here with the S&P 500. Price has still not closed the gap here around 56.80, and that's a good sign for the S&P 500. I think the price is looking strong. We're a little extended over the moving averages, but the 50 has crossed back above the 100. I would look for maybe a pullback and retest of those moving averages coming into this week or next week. But for now, with the price action that is showing, it's showing strength, and it looks like the S&P 500 may continue to head higher. I still hold that we have these gaps at 56.80 and at 52.87, 52.90, somewhere in there, 5300. that will eventually get filled, I would think. So it's likely that if I zoom out here, we might be in a period similar to the 2000s to 2010s where we could see some pullback, uh, rally to the highs, pull back again, and then rally. Um, there's a potential for that given that we still have some gaps down here, but I could be completely wrong, and the momentum could continue to the upside. I'm looking for opportunities where price action in stocks are strong and prices are above moving averages and momentum is behind them. So that's where I'm currently looking for opportunities, but I would still be a little bit cautious if price starts pulling back with some momentum back down to this area. We just have to wait and see how it's going to react if price gets down around 5,700 around these moving averages. But for now, we could see a little more consolidation in the coming weeks. I think is likely because given we now have a gap here at 58.25 as well. So it's likely we'll see some consolidation here in the coming weeks. But overall, I think the price structure here looks pretty strong. And I want to jump over to the equal weighted S&P 500. So this is the equal weight. So all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 all carry the same weight instead of the top 7 stocks or so being outweighing the others. So the price action for the equal weight looks similar to the S&P 500, which is a good sign. It means there's more participation in the strength of the market, and it's not just the Magnificent Seven bringing the prices back up. So we've got the moving averages about to cross. We've got some strong buying of the dips when the price falls. So again, I think if price continues to consolidate for another week or two, it looks like it could be squeezing and setting up for another push higher. So we'll have to wait and see. But for now, price action looks to be somewhat strong. All right. As for the Nasdaq, kind of the similar story. We've had some push higher this week. I think it's likely that we'll see some pullback, some form of pullback, maybe down to 21,000 again and retest that area, given that it's not quite a gap here, but there was some gapping action in that area a couple weeks ago. So it's likely the price will pull back towards 21,000, give these moving averages a chance to catch up, and we'll see what happens if price gets down to those areas. As for the Dow, similar to the S&P and the Nasdaq, price is a little more consolidated and close to these moving averages, which I think is a good sign. It's likely that price could pull back to around the $42,000 mark again, retest these moving averages. If it can hold, there's a lot of buying coming in around that price. It looks like we've got a couple of hammer candles from late last week and Monday of this week. So it's likely if price came back down, we could see some more buying in that area, which would be another some more supporting evidence for the price to continue to the upside. So watch for price to come back around 42,000, maybe a little below that. If it seems like it's holding, it could be a good buying opportunity for the price to continue to move to the upside in the short term. For the Russell, we ended Friday bullish. We had a pretty strong candle here, but again, there's quite a few gaps in this area. The moving averages are turning higher, so like the other indices, I think that's a good sign. But watch for a pullback in the next week or two to see if price is coming down to retest any of these areas before heading higher. And we'll finish here with Bitcoin. So after hitting all-time highs at 112,345 a couple of weeks ago, we've pulled back, but it's not a severe heavy momentum pullback. It's just kind of a sideways pullback consolidation. Had a pretty strong selling day Thursday, but then we rallied back Friday with a very strong piercing bullish engulfing candle. So good sign here. Looks like price wants to continue to the upside. We may need a little bit more consolidation in the coming weeks before heading higher, but it looks like Bitcoin does want to continue to the upside. And if we see the strength in the dollar, it's possible Bitcoin will continue to consolidate and pull back, just like gold. But then, like I talked about in the dollar, once it bounces higher and then I think will fall, it's likely Bitcoin will continue to the upside. And that's all I have for this week. I appreciate anyone that tunes in as always. If you find any value from the content, please give a like and a subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. And I will see you all again next week. Thanks.